Hi guys, today is Tuesday and we are meeting again in our book club. Probably this is going to be our last week, and I know that you guys had to read the chapter 20 and 21 for today, but we are going to do a short summary of those chapters just in case you missed something, and then we're going to read chapter 22 and 23. This book club is going to an end, so I hope you enjoy the end of the book also. Okay, so let's see what happens in chapter 20. In chapter 20, we see that Anna's family has a simple Christmas since they are still poor. Plus, the depression in France is raging. It is the winter of 1935 and everyone is working hard. Mama is learning to run the house with ease, though she still has great trouble sewing everything that needs to be sewn. After a bit of disagreement with Mama, Papa goes out and buys Mama a cheap sewing machine that he thinks is in order to work. In fact, it is about 40 years old and completely broken. Mama is angry that Papa has wasted the money on a worthless sewing machine since the money can no longer go to pay for Anna's shoes. They then make the sewing machine back to the antique shop where Papa had bought it and try to return it. When the seller refuses, Madame Fernand threatens to have Papa write a bad report about his shop. The seller relents and they get their money back. Anna gets her shoes. Okay, so we're seeing in this chapter how they celebrated Christmas in a really simple way just because they still didn't have money. Actually, they didn't have enough money to pay for Anna's shoes, and then her dad spending a good amount of money buying something that doesn't even work. They managed to return it back, and Anna got her shoes for Christmas, which is a good news and a good thing happening in Christmas time. Okay, so let's move to chapter 21. The chapter 21 opens with Papa partly out of work due to the depression. Anna is doing well at school after her French abilities kick in. She writes some essays that please her father. Papa is around more since the Daily Parisian cannot afford to pay him full time, so they interact more. Anna has decided to go ahead and take the French elementary school exam, even though she still does not feel confident about her French. The exam requires passing many subjects. To pass the exam, all subjects have to be passed unless some subjects are passed with distinction. They can then be used to cancel the failed portion of the exam. Anna does well enough to earn distinction in physical fitness and thus passes her exam. Max passes his own exam as the best student in the class. Anna's composition essay for her exam is so good that she received some money and a letter from the mayor of Paris congratulating her. She has one of the top 20 compositions in French in the city, which is especially impressive given the fact that French is her second language. Good. Let's see what happens in chapter 22. In chapter 22, there is some hope that Papa's film script might be picked up by some French film studios, but they reject it quickly. Papa has sent the script to a Hungarian film director in England, but he has not read the script. This experience increases Mama's desire to go to England, where many of their friends are finding attractive work. Pressure to go to England builds after a confrontation with the concierge about paying the rent. Papa cannot make any money in France despite his talents. So towards the end of the chapter, Papa and Mama explain to Max and Anna that just as when they had come to France, they will have to go away to England and leave Max and Anna behind again by themselves. Well, this is kind of a sad chapter somehow, because we see that after all the things that they have done to get used with the life in France and learning the language, probably soon they will have to move again and go to England. Okay, now, I think it's a good idea to read it together, this chapter. We will start reading it and then you will finish it by yourself or with your partner. Okay, so I'll give you like 10 seconds to open the book on page 180 and let's start reading it together. Are you there with me? Are you grabbing your books? Okay, so the page is 180, chapter 23. Afterwards, Anna was very ashamed of her outburst. After all she had really known all the time that Mamma and Papa had no choice but to send her and Max away, all she had done was to make everyone feel worse about something that they had to happen anyway. Why couldn't she have kept quiet? She worried about it in bed, and when she woke up early the next morning, she felt she must do something. She still had some of her prize money left. She could go out and buy croissants for everybody's breakfast. There was a little breeze blowing for the first time in weeks, and when she came back from her baker's with hot croissants in a bag, and she suddenly felt much happier. It would all work out somehow. Everything would be all right. A man was talking to the concierge in a strong German accent. As she passed, Anna heard him asking for Papa. "I'll take you up," she said, disregarding the concierge. And the concierge, in offended silence, handed her a letter. Anna looked down at it and saw with a sudden quickening of the pulse that it had an English stamp. All the way up in the lift, she could think of nothing but what might be inside the letter, and she only remembered Papa Visitor when she spoke to her. "You must be Anna," he said, and she nodded. He was a shabby-looking man with a sad voice. "Papa!" cried Anna as they entered the flat. "I've bought some croissant for breakfast, and there's a letter and someone's to see you." "Someone here? Now?" said Papa as he emerged from his room, tying his tie. He drew the visitor into the dining room, and Anna followed with the letter in her hand. "How do you, Rosenfeld," said the man with a little bow. "I used to be an actor in Berlin, but you don't know me. Only small parts, you understand?" He smiled, showing irregular yellow teeth, and added with apparent irrelevance, "I have a nephew in the confectionery business." "Papa," said Anna, holding out the letter, but Papa said, "Later." Herr Rosenfeld seemed to find it difficult to say what he had come for. His sad eyes kept roaming around the dining room while he considered one opening after another and dismissed each one. At least he put his hand in his pocket and pulled out a small parcel wrapped in brown paper. "I have brought you this," he said, and handed it to Papa. Papa unwrapped it. It was a watch, an old silver watch, and there was something familiar about it. "Julius!" cried Papa. Herr Rosenfeld nodded sadly. "I am the bearer of bad news. Uncle Julius was dead." While Mamma gave Herr Rosenfeld some coffee and he absent-mindedly nibbled one Anna's croissant, he told them how Uncle Julius had died. He had been dismissed from his post as curator at the Berlin National History Museum nearly a year ago. "But why?" asked Mamma. "Surely you knew," said Herr Rosenfeld. "He had a Jewish grandmother." Uncle Julius had not been able to work as a naturalist after this, but had found a job sweeping in the factory. He had moved from his flat into a cheap room, and this was where he had made friends with Herr Rosenfeld, who had the room next door. In spite of his difficulties, Uncle Julius had been quite cheerful at this stage. "He just accepted things, didn't he?" said Rosenfeld. "I was planning even then to come to Paris and join my nephew, and I said to him, 'You come too, there is room for us both in the confectionery trade.' But he wouldn't. He seemed to think that the situation in Germany was bound to change." Papa nodded, remembering Uncle Julius in Switzerland. Herr Rosenfeld and Uncle Julius had had many conversations together, and Uncle Julius had talked a great deal about Papa and his family. Once or twice Herr Rosenfeld had accompanied him to the zoo, where he now spent all his Sundays. Though Uncle Julius had so little money, he always managed to bring some peanuts for the monkeys and scraps for the other animals, and Herr Rosenfeld had been amazed to see how they rushed to the bars of their cages as soon as he appeared. It wasn't just the food, he said. It was more like a sort of gentleness in him that they recognized. Again Papa nodded. During the autumn, Uncle Julius had even dropped into the zoo after work in the evenings. His whole life now centered around the animals. There was a monkey that let him stroke it through the bars of its cage. And then, just because before Christmas, the blow had fallen. Uncle Julius had received an official letter revoking his pass to the zoo. No reason was given. The fact that he had a Jewish grandmother was enough. Okay, so we are in page 182. This chapter has 1 page and a half more, and then it's done. So if you can finish the book today, so finish reading the chapter 23 and probably read a little bit of chapter 24, and after that we will meet for the last time on Thursday. Time flies and this book club is coming to an end. So our last time is going to be on Zoom. I cannot wait to see you all on Zoom. I will prepare some really nice activities by the end and we will finish reading the book together. I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you for listening to this video. There is no Google Drive activities for this for today. So it's just finish reading chapter 23 by yourself or with a partner and start reading 2 or 3 or 4 pages from chapter 24. If you have any question, let me know. Send me an email. I'm always here to respond to you. Thank you and see you on Thursday.